welcome Dr. Todd. It's so wonderful to have you here today and a real honor to be able to have a conversation. May I call you Bertha?
Please do. Please do.
Thank you. And you may call me one.
I'm already there, Marvin. I'm leaving in front.
Bertha, in preparing for our talk, I learned some interesting facts about you and your personal life. And I'll just state them first, and if I did anything wrong, you can correct me, okay?
No, I'll just listen.
I learned that you were raised on a farm in rural Sampson County. You were born in Garland. Your parents were educators. You were one of 4 children. You were an identical twin. Me, you're one of a kind.
Well, I don't know how they made was this.
You have 2 master's degrees and were awarded an honorary doctorate by the University of North Carolina. And you have 2 adult children, Rita, who is with us today,
Please thank you, Rita, for raising your hand.
and Brian.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how your early family life affected you.
Well, I would call my father was a principal in the 30s, a lead teacher, whatever you would call it. And my mother was a 3rd grade teacher. The 2 of them met during the summer, renewing their certificates at Federal State University, with Federal State Normal then. During the segregated era, Garland did not have a high school for Blacks and people of color. I don't know if any of you have been to Garland or Clinton, North Carolina, just up the road. Well, anyway, it's around 15 miles. And every Black child having finished 7th grade would really have to travel to Sampson County Training School, which was a Rosenwald school, board with some relatives or friends in Clinton in Sampson County, and then attend that one school. There were no Black schools in Garland, North Carolina. My father was the principal of 1 through 7, or so-called kindergarten, since my twin sister and I went to school at 5, simply because we could read. But when my father realized his 4 children could not afford to move to Clinton with paying room and board and then attend the Sampson County Training School, he decided to get busy. And his brother was the same, because they did that. They went to Clinton, Sampson County, paid room and board, and went to the one school in that area of Sampson County. So he sought Ray Rosenwald funds. Booker T. Washington and Julius Rosenwald, who was a philanthropic Jew, decided to team together and provide building money or funds to build schools for Blacks in the South after the Civil War and Reconstruction. Well, when he checked to find out, there were no funds available. They had all been used. Hanover County has quite a few Rosenwald. Pender County has quite a few Rosenwald schools. And we worked with whites and Blacks in the community. And the white businessmen who were in the NC legislature heard about the effort, and they began building a colored high school, as they said then, in 1935. The school was ready at the beginning or end of 1936. My father was principal for about 7 months when he passed in April of 1937. And when I say I really came from a family of educators, I'm talking about my uncle who had 9 children, and most of them were educators. By that time, one of them had been to school, finished, and came to serve as the second principal of Garland Colored High School. I also learned in my research of my rescue journey that any school that was called Sampson County Training School, or that is Rowan County Training School, was a Black school. And any school that said, like Garland Colored High School, that was also a Black school in a segregated area. These schools, quite a few of them, received Julius Rosenwald funds. I read a book, I don't know how many of you read this book, teamed up by Julius Rosenwald, his niece. And the book says you need a schoolhouse. So then I found out how much Booker T. Washington was impressed with Julius Rosenwald was impressed with Booker T. Washington, who came up from slavery and was the founder of Tuskegee Institute and served as the leader for that. And his title of the book is Up from Slavery.
Right.
This was the teamwork of both of those great men.
Well, I understand that you and your sister took a rather unconventional path, your twin sister, to become librarians. You both wanted to be physicians originally. So how did you end up being educated?
Well, my twin sister and I remained out of school for 2 years, waiting for our older brother and elder sister to finish up college. And we decided to break the mold. We were going to be physicians, so we found we were accepted at Howard University in Washington. My mother didn't have that money. We stayed out 2 years, money was a problem. And we decided we were accepted, but our elder sister and mother decided to enroll us at the current North Carolina Central University behind our backs. And they told us, we don't have that kind of money. So you're going right here in North Carolina and you're going to Durham. But we were happy to get anywhere, really. So we decided to major in science, and we were going to break the mold of professional educators. Both of us majored in science and we graduated with honors. But before we finished that last year, senior year, I don't know if it was my brother or my elder sister, and this is what he or she said. You twins, or you babies, we were the babies, and I hated that word. You babies, better get some education, because we don't have any more money to support you to become doctors. Well, that meant we had to go back and get a graduate degree, take some education as much as we could take to do practice teaching. And we got a master's in library science. That was the trend in 1952. And this is what we did. So that brings me to the first controversial issue that I encountered.
Well, hold on then.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So, well, some of us, I shouldn't say we all, but you were the very first and only librarian at Williston Senior High School.
Yes.
Or media specialist, as you were later called.
Yes.
Some of us in this room, I can't say all of us, but I certainly can remember the 1950s.
Okay.
It was a very different and challenging time for
Yes.
women and people of color. So describe what Williston was like in the early 1950s and your contribution.
Well, let me tell you how I got here first.
Okay.
Both of us, my sister and I, were more interested in college work Because very few individuals had a master's at that time. Junior college and then get to doctorate and move on up to college. I was offered a position by the President Cozart, who was getting his doctorate at New York University at the time. And I wanted to break the contract with New Hanover County. And that superintendent didn't like colored people. And I guess because he didn't care, well, I had a master's and I thought I was pretty good at what I was doing. But he told the principal after I signed the contract that if I broke that contract, he would make certain that I didn't get a job anywhere in North Carolina. So I came to New Hanover County to remain 1 year, only 1 year. And I believe in divine guidance. I was not to be that position. I really wanted to be an emergency one at that. But it was Booker T. Washington's book, Up to Slavery, that I read the statement, because I came here crying. I did not want to come to New Hanover County because I was offered a job in the western part of the state. Booker T. Washington, in his book, Up from Slavery, made the statement, cast down your bucket where you are. That gave me the inner peace and the motivation to do as well as I could as a media specialist at Williston Senior High School. And then I had a little problem with my book order. This is the controversial part. And my supervisor didn't order the book order. And this is what she told me. I ordered them in the fall. They never came in the spring. And she said, well, Bertha, you have too many books on this list about school desegregation or integration or citizens' rights. So I sent a fiery statement back to the superintendent I knew didn't like me in the first place. Well, you tell Mr. So-and-so that I am a professional. I think I know my profession pretty well. I use professional tools to make this order and develop this order. If he has any tools that he would prefer my using, please send them to me. I didn't get it before anyway. But that was my effort. And then I encountered my supervisor. These are the controversial things. I could have accepted it. But when I came here, I had grown up in a family of educators. I felt secure. And as an identical twin, I was finding out who I was. Not, and they called us on the campus, Pete and repeat. And then they would say, twin and repeat. So I did not have an individual identity. And I was struggling trying to find just who I was. But then the next thing, after working, I really, it's in my book there, I'm happy to say that I led, although it was in the segregated schools, one of the first book fairs, countywide book fairs, that New Hanover County ever had. I have checked the records and I never saw anything related to a book fair in New Hanover High or Williston Senior High School. I would like to tell you about school desegregation.
Yes, well, I'm just going to mention, you will tell us about that, but I'm just going to mention a few of the many events and occurrences I've marked your 14 years at Williston. And I'd like you to just comment briefly on each of them. The countywide book fair.
Well, I won't say other things about that, but I will tell you about the testing under the superintendent. When the seniors took the test, the superintendent decided, I don't, you have that on there?
Yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so, well, I'll just skip to that then. You said in my restless journey, you write, one of my saddest moments at Wilson came when a senior class took the standard achievement test and made outstanding scores. Now, this sounds like something that should be celebrated. Please explain what you meant by that quote.
It was sad because the superintendent, the same superintendent, with whom I'm talking, I'm referring to, thought that blacks should not score that high on tests. And he decided to make the principal retake the test. It was sad. And I'll say this now, I didn't know that then. I'm slipping this in with what you have there. And you've already told me how much time we have left. So I wanted to get the 1898.
You want to answer that?
I think I'm confessing. I had my DNA paper. And I'm from 20 countries that said me them too. With the simple fact that I'm really a human mud. And I'm still. But it taught me something. Usually identical twins have trouble with identity. And I was so mixed up after I saw that I simply gave the whole thing up. I said, you know you are not at this late age of your life. So just take it with you. But I didn't want to say anything else about the unwed book fair, but the simple fact, I don't think we're going to finish. Okay.
Well, you established the countywide book fair.
Yes.
We do know that. I think that all of us are old enough, or most of us, not all of us, to remember 1968 and what we were doing when we first heard that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. What was it like at Wilson?
It was awful. The black kids would not go to classes, some of them, because their leader, as they thought, has been killed. And we have nobody to lead us now. Those teachers at Wilson always taught the kid, you have to be doubly good in order to enter the mainstream of work or be accepted in the Ivy League colleges. And I had to think of something so that they wouldn't congregate in the library, which they were doing. They wanted to go to New Hanover High and get that preference to go on the flag. They had no idea that the procedure that people have to follow to get this done. And of course, I had to think of something very quick there to keep them on that Wilson campus. So I thought of the idea and I presented it to the principal. And I told him I thought we should have an emergency assembly and let them go from where they are, because they got rioters. And then the teachers would bring them and we would have an abrupt program, which I worked out. And I got one of the very young black teachers who was the one to sort of hype them up. And I asked him if he would talk with the students and about the characteristics of Dr. Martin Luther King and nonviolence. They marched to this, he okayed it because he was having trouble downstairs with the students. They marched to the assembly with their teachers, classroom teachers. And then this Mr. Clemens, who was a professor somewhere, smart teacher, but out talking. And he spoke for about 10 minutes, telling them Dr. Martin Luther King would not advocate what you're doing now. And then we sang, "We Shall Overcome." And they marched quietly out to their classrooms, went to their homerooms, picked up their books. And by that time, the principal remained in his office. So the buses would be ready to take them home. So they got home a little early that day. But that was on the Friday, and the meals were disrupted. National Guard had to come on.
Oh, after that, they closed books. Right,
Yes.
shortly after that.
Right.
And school integration has started. And you went to Harvard.
I was assigned to Harvard.
Yes. And then you were a media specialist there for a short time.
Yes, unfortunately, I felt good about helping the students and all of it. But unfortunately, there was quite a bit of tension. The white or black students were not prepared for the culture shock and the meeting and training together. That's something I'll say about the board at that time. But I became double agent for the board during this time. I really did, because I tell you what the board did. I remained in that library for 1 year and 3 months. Well, I was trying to make certain we had people at riots about twice a week. When it was broken out and all of this. And being in an informal atmosphere of the library, I was more adapted to trying to get them calm. After that 1 year and 3 months, the board must have gotten some more money, federal money, but they wanted to appoint me to a different position. I recommended 3 white females, I think it's just the same female, maybe they wanted a female, and 3 blacks. Well, that didn't work, because the principal told me then, well, Bert, they said they want you. I said, well, I don't want this position. And that, well, I finally went on and took it. And then they had no guidelines. And then we had no money to work with. But the idea was, I got a private phone to make a beeline to the Board of Education members and the superintendent and his staff. And I worked around the principal and under the principal. It was quite challenging, and that's the same time that I became a double agent for the board. I met with them in their executive meetings and their private groups and gave them recommendations, which meant I had to be in the community and in the school system. Well, then that's also, I was on the governor's committee at that time, Governor Hunt, and Wilmington 10, I was on his advisory committee. He commuted the sentences, but he didn't part as Governor Perdue did.
That sounds pretty challenging.
Well, it really was. I've really been through the mill, folks. But it's only gave me more faith. I have a profound faith when I believe in divine guidance.
I read that you learned, like I did, I think I told you that when I had never heard of 1898 until I moved to Wilmington 5 years ago. It's very, very sad, and it made me angry that I had never been taught this in school, but I learned that you also found out about 1898 later in life, which really surprised me. And you became very involved with the 100th anniversary of this event and became a leader in a group that eventually formed the 1898 Centennial Commission and later created the 1898 Memorial Park. This was a tragic and devastating event in history. So, and most especially, of course, for the Black community. Tell us a little about your work with this group and why you think it's important to commemorate that.
I'm going to ask my daughter Rita to come up here and read when I first heard about it, a bit in the reflections. To come here and read that I first heard about 1898, I think in my subconscious, this may have been one of the reasons I didn't want to come to Wilmington. Do we have any native Wilmingtonians in here? I'm surprised, not one. I think
Georgia.
I think we need to come over here.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm over there by your mom.
Don't be shy.
If you stand kind of behind her chair, that gets you best.
Rita, by the way, is now a member of the League of Women Voters of the Lower Cape Community.
Yes.
First hearing about 1898, the 1898 massacre. Following my father Thomas's death on April 7th, 1937, my mother remarried. My father's elder brother, Junius, had also lost his wife 2 years earlier. Therefore, I had known my stepfather as my uncle prior to his marrying my mother. That confused the family tree. Our home was a big rambling house on a front porch that encircled the entire house. Our heat was supplied by fireplaces in each bedroom. One evening, my stepfather and mother were sitting in the front of the bedroom fireplace. They were carrying on what seemed to be an intense conversation. I happened to overhear my stepfather say, "Well, Molly," my mother's name was Nally, "I did hear that the Cape Fear River was running red with blood." Hearing this statement, I thought, what in the world is Papa talking about? Being a child of maybe 10 years of age, I wondered just why people would want to kill animals. Never thought about humans. And throw them in the Cape Fear River. Since Wilmington, NC was mentioned, I knew that my papa and mother were talking about a river located in Wilmington. My mother, who was originally from Duplin County, had many relatives in Wilmington. We visited them once a year, usually at Christmas. During all of these visits, for many years, no relatives ever discussed any news regarding a massacre, a coup d'etat, or anyone being killed and dumped in the Cape Fear River. Nevertheless, my parents' conversations settled and remained in the back of my mind until I moved to Wilmington, NC in the fall of 1952, when I became employed as a media specialist by the New Hanover County Board of Education.
Thank you. I would like to say that Bolton, whose vision this was, and I pay tribute to him in reflections, lost his Black co-chair, the foundation of Black and White, these were two men, and all of the subcommittees carried a Black and a White. I say over and over, Blacks and Whites are running the county. Only Blacks were killed, and they were told never to return. But after, in 1995, I lost my husband 6 weeks, no, my sister, 6 weeks later, my husband fell dead. And Bolton began to pester me about serving as co-chair. Well, I've been in enough controversial issues in Wilmington not to want to go through that while I was grieving, I thought. And finally, I promised to come on board with Bolton until he, as an interim, until he could find someone. Well, he confessed later, he never really could. And then I came on, and Rita, I wish you had not gone back there. I'll leave you very briefly. I know how time you have. Yes. And then we began the speaking engagement when Bolton and I came on in 1995. And then Bolton and I began to speak, spread the word, all white groups, all Black groups, mixed groups. And then it was sort of, they said, well, why do you want to bring this up after 100 years? And then I had to tell them about the wound. I said a wound occurred in 1898, and the wound was never properly healed. As a result of that, a physician does this. He has to break the wound so it might heal properly. That's very painful. We had to break the wound so that it could heal properly, and that's what we do.
And you had 4 goals, the 1898 commission had 4 goals.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I didn't put them in this, but I tell you that.
may I say?
Sure. Yes,
Because I thought they were beautiful.
thank you.
Tell the story,
Yeah.
heal the wound, honor the memory, restore the hope.
Yes, these were the goals in the reflections, the book, you'll find that. But after I came on board, I'm gonna ask you to read about the kick under the table with Bolton and another fellow. They just simply got carried away with what they wanted to do. And sometimes we had elected officials and county officials, and they would go too far. Please read that for me. Just a
A
bit.
kick under the table. During the numerous meetings leading up to the 100th commemoration, I learned another tactic to deal with Bolton Anthony and Kenneth Davis, who were giving 100% of their energy to this effort. Sometimes when the city manager and elected officials would meet with us, I would make certain that I positioned myself between the two. At times, both were predisposed to go to the extreme with their comments. When this occurred, I would kick one or the other or both under the table. This was my signal to tell them to stop the comments or simply shut up.
Thank you. This is what I had to go through, those 2 committed individuals. I'm going to ask you to remain right there because I am trying to run. I would like for you to read down, Alex Manley was a descendant of our Governor Thomas Manley. And of course, I want you to read how Alex Manley slipped out of town after his offices were burned. So read that one, Lita.
Alex Manley slips out of town. Frankie Manley Jones and Ida Manley got a kick out of telling me just how their relative Alex slipped out of town during the 1898 massacre and coup. Alex Manley managed to escape the city of Wilmington when the mob set out to kill him. This multitude of henchmen had already burned his newspaper, the Daily Record, offices, and equipment. The following is the story that was relayed to me. I realized that Judge Judy would consider this story as hearsay. Nonetheless, this is the story I was told by the relatives of Mr. Manley. Alexander Manley, a descendant of North Carolina Governor Charles Manley, looked much like a white, upper-class Southern gentleman. His dress and speech, as well as his writing skills in his daily newspaper, indicated these characteristics as well. Manley had many Black and white supporters of him and his newspaper. This was the only daily newspaper in the United States owned and operated by a person of color. When Manley learned that his newspaper had been burned to the ground, he knew he must flee the city. Several of his white friends gave him the password to be permitted to leave the city. Manley was dressed as if he was attending an out-of-town meeting, as many whites were doing. Manley was nearing a checkpoint staffed by the red shirts, a militia group. He stopped and waited. The red shirts immediately asked him for the passport and if he had a rifle. Unfortunately for the red shirts, they had no idea of the physical characteristics of Alex Manley. They also inquired of Manley, "Do you know that nigger, Alexander Manley?" and he shook his head no. They instructed him that if he saw him, he was to kill him. And the red shirts gave Alex Manley a rifle so that he could do as they asked. Manley tipped his hat and responded that he would adhere to their instructions as best he could. Little did this group of red shirts realize that this handsome, white-looking gentleman was Alex Manley fleeing for his life. The sisters shared this story with me. Only recently did I realize that this incident should be recorded for historical propriety. I also realized that the story told to me was firsthand information, as firsthand information as I would get. Needless to say, I was quite impressed with Alex Manley's relatives at a symposium held at UNCW in October of 1998. Both sisters, both nieces are now deceased.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm afraid we're pretty much out of time.
Yes, we are.
But I just wanted to mention that
Thank you.
Bertha is the author of 5 books. 2 of them, one was for Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, and the other was for Links Incorporated, both of which she is longtime member and alumni, and Links is a service organization. And but 3 of them she has with us today. Well, I don't know if you don't have anything help here, but they can be ordered on Amazon, but she has 2 of them here. The My Restless Journey, which Rita read from, and Reflections on a Massacre and a Coup, which shares how a group of citizens in Wilmington, North Carolina came together to create the Centennial Commission of the 1898 massacre. And also they went on to create the 1898 Memorial Park, which opened in 2008. So I will just end with this. What do you think going forward with all that's happening now with this revival of white nationalism? How do you think that we can move forward with the role of reconciliation?
Reconciliation began at the dedication of the park. Linda Raleigh, hired by the New Hanover County Commissioners in 2021, has taken over. I asked her if she would coordinate any programs regarding 1898, and she's doing a beautiful job under the theme of healing forward. And what can each of us do? I'd like to close out with this poem, because that will answer your question. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that's just too little of us. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. Not just for some, but for everyone. And a favorite reading of mine, I read it quite often. God of love, teach us to live. Forgive, forgive, teach us how to truly live. And someday men may realize that all the earth, seas, and skies belong to God and who made us all. The rich, the poor, the great, small. And in the Father's holy sight, no man is yellow, black, or white. And peace on earth cannot be found until we meet on common ground. And every man becomes a brother who worships God and loves each other. I would like to say, I think if we keep those things in our hearts, and I would like to think and feel that despite our country's ups and downs, we as citizens of Southeastern North Carolina will continue to move forward together. That's what we can do.
Thank you so much for being with us.